Good morning, everyone, and welcome to MSD's Payment Audit Module training this morning. We will just jump right in here and get started. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We have some new technology we're rolling out, and this morning we're happy to share that information with you. So, welcome to our pre-qualified prime contractors and their subcontractors. So let's see here. This morning we have myself and Sheila Thomas from Diversity. We also have Saad. You heard from him a little earlier from Public Affairs, and actually I'm going to turn it back over to Saad and let him cover some of the technology and ground rules for our Zoom training this morning.
All righty, thank you, Shauna. So yes, I wanted to just go over briefly on how to use the virtual platform and engage with us, since this obviously is a little bit different than normal. You guys know this, you're on Zoom right now, and you must have found out by now that you're in what's called listen and view mode. And what that means is you can hear us and you can see us, but we can't hear or see you. That does not mean we don't want to hear from you though. And there are several ways to engage throughout the process. So for those of you that are on a smartphone or a computer, if you're on a computer, wiggle your mouse, and if you're on a smartphone, tap on your screen. You'll see a black bar appear on the bottom, black menu bar appear on the bottom of the screen. One of the buttons on that menu bar is Q&A. And if you use that Q&A icon, if you tap on it or click on it, you'll see another text box appear. And in that text box, you can type any questions you have throughout the presentation. And we will have a Q&A session at the end of the training, of the presentation, but that doesn't mean you have to wait until the end to ask your question. Anytime throughout the presentation you come up with a question, hit that Q&A button, type in your question, and it'll be logged, and we'll address it at the end during the Q&A session. The other thing I wanted to mention about this is if you see a question in that Q&A box, because everybody can see everybody's questions, you can, and you want that question also answered, you can upvote it by hitting the thumbs up button located underneath that question. You'll see that once questions pop up. So that's the technology portion. The ground rules portion. So just so everybody knows, in the interest of everybody's time, we'll be answering questions during the live Q&A session, not really on a one-on-one basis, unless we can answer it on a one-on-one basis. But we'll only be answering general questions about the training that apply to everyone during the live Q&A session. And that's just to respect everybody's time. If you do have your own specific questions about your company or a specific project or something specific to you, you can still submit that in the Q&A box. It won't be addressed live, but I will let you know that I have logged the request, and I will send it over to Shauna and Sheila to make sure to address it in the coming days. So that's all I got. I'll throw it back over to Shauna. And I will be, if you do use the Q&A button, you probably interact with me.
Thanks, Saad. All right. Well, this is my first Zoom training that I am hosting, so bear with me as we go through this. So first things first, here you'll see the site where you access MSD's diversity reporting system if you're a prime contractor. And here is where you also would also use the email address that you see posted here, diversity@stlmsd.com, if you wish to submit questions to Diversity, either regarding the training or passwords, usernames, or emails. So the first hour of the training is for prime contractors who are responsible for submitting involvement reports for their subcontractors. The second hour is for subs who are responsible for verifying the payments submitted by the prime contractors. The main thing I want to point out on this slide, as I said before, is this is also our diversity contact information for when you need to communicate directly with Diversity. So if you need to update any of your information or subs information, this is the email address that you'll use. So before we go into detail about the payment audit module, really briefly, we're going to explain to you why the email information is going to be so important when primes submit payments and information. So once the payment audit module is implemented, in order for a prime to successfully submit an involvement report, this is what needs to happen. First, there must be an active and verified contact email address on file for each sub on the contract. Active means there is a valid email address on file in MDR that payment notifications can be sent to. Verified means that MSD sent an email to a subcontractor containing a hyperlink that the subcontractor have to click to verify that they do in fact have a valid email address that can accept payments, payment verifications. Now, once they are verified, or if a subcontractor verifies their email, it's a one-time verification, and I want to point that out. So if they have been verified on one contract, then they've been verified on all contracts in the system. If there is any missing verified emails for any subcontractor on a project, the prime will not be able to submit their involvement reports on their projects. So it's very important, as I said, that I pointed out how important the email address is for verification purposes. Now, in the event we don't have an email address on file, the prime will receive an error message preventing them from submitting that involvement report. Then the system will send a message to the prime letting them know what subcontractor's email information has been deemed invalid. And the system will also prompt that prime contractor to save that involvement report information as a draft until we were able to verify the email address and information for that subcontractor with the missing data. And then once we have that missing data in the system, the prime will be able to go on and submit that involvement report. But the involvement report will remain in the draft status until we get that updated, that information updated. And diversity will be notified of that happening, should it happen. Now, here's what diversity is doing to ensure you will be able to do your reporting in the diversity reporting system. So right now we know that we have a vendor verification form that is submitted at the time of award for the subcontractors that the prime contractor have on Form A. We'll be checking that information that's submitted on the vendor verification form and verifying all the subs on the contract moving forward that they have valid and verified email information so that the prime contractor won't have any problems submitting their very first involvement report. Next, on a weekly basis, we'll also be doing system checks to make sure that the information in our system is current and updated. We didn't get any undeliverable email messages back that we need to follow up on to make sure that the prime contractors are able to continue to do their monthly reporting. Now, once you're under a contract, on active contracts, we see it all the time that primes need to add subcontractors to their projects. And when you add a subcontractor to a project, we check and verify the subcontractor's information at the time that they are added to a contract to make sure that the prime will be able to move forward and report their involvement without interruption. Now, we'll do everything we can to ensure you're able to submit your involvement reports on time. And before the module goes live, what we'll be doing is checking each active contract. And if there's any hiccups along the way, like we don't have a verified subcontractor information in the system on a contract that you're reporting on, we'll be reaching out to you before we go live with this payment audit module to make sure that you are able to continue to report on your projects without any interruptions. Next, we're going to cover the functionality of the payment audit module and how this module replaces the manual payment verifications that you see now from the MWBE compliance specialists and inspectors that come via email or in the mail. And that's what this payment audit module is designed to do, is we're replacing those manual processes and we're automating them. And I'll turn it over to Sheila now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sheila, and I am the Account Associate Senior in Diversity. I will be the contact person that you will most likely be in contact with if you have any issues or concerns as far as your contracts, or if you want to update the subcontractor contact email. Now, we just heard Shauna mention that this replaces the manual payment verifications you currently get from the MWBE compliance specialist or MWBE compliance inspectors via email or snail mail. This is true only if we get a successful automated payment verification into the system. And this training is designed to give you information about the process when it works successfully, and also to guide you in the event the payment can't be verified in the system. We call the payment audit module PAM, and this is where all of the payment verification data is kept when a payment is reported into the MDR system. On the screen, you'll see that this is where it's located once you're logged into MDR. It's located under the Involvement tab. Now, when you first click on the Payment Audit Module tab, a list of your active contracts will appear. Across the top PAM bar, you will see 3 tabs. The first one you'll see is the Refresh tab. This refreshes the information on that page. The second you'll see is the Search tab. This allows you to search for a specific contract to view payment information. And the third one you'll see is the Download tab. This allows you to export the audit data to an Excel spreadsheet. To the right of each payment line, there are 2 options located under the Action field. The first one is a magnifying glass, which opens to payment audit details for that particular line. And the second is the Print feature, if you want to print the payment details for the payment information. Please note that the payment audit module is view only. Here, you see the payment details produced by the magnifying glass, and this is also the information that will be printed if you use the print feature. The information produced for primes in PAM cannot be edited. Primes will only have the ability to check the status of payments and print the records. Remember that information can also be exported to an Excel spreadsheet if needed. Next, Shauna will cover the workflow process for the payment audit module. Shauna.
Okay, what you see here is the workflow for the entire payment audit process from beginning to end. What I want to point out here are the responsibilities of the prime, which are in blue on my screen, and the subcontractors is in purple. And as you can see, both have 2 places on this process. Everything else is either system generated, the gray boxes, or an action performed by Diversity. Those actions are in orange. The green diamonds are essentially the responses generated by requests made during some point during the workflow process. The next few slides will walk you through the audit process once you've submitted a payment for a subcontractor. So starting with the blue box at the top, the prime submits a subcontractor payment into MDR. MDR is MSD Diversity Reporting System. Next, in the gray box, the system sends a notification to the subcontractor via email. This creates a record in the payment audit module with the status of pending. Then the sub has 5 days to click on the link in the email, review the payment information reported by the prime, and respond by clicking on the hyperlink to confirm or dispute the payment information. This next purple box, the subcontractor clicks on the link, view the information. They have verified the payment within that 5-day period and the system confirms those actions. And then the subcontractor's payment in the system changes from pending to confirmed. Now, this is how it works perfectly. And if everything falls in alignment, everything will happen in a very efficient manner. But we all know that the world is not perfect all the time. So in this next slide, we'll cover a different scenario. In this scenario, there's a break in the perfect process. The subcontractor forgot to respond within that 5-day period. Now take a look under the first green box and let's take it from there. In this gray box, the system sends a friendly reminder to the subcontractor, and the prime is also copied on that email. The sub now has another 5 days to respond to the link provided in the new email. Yes, the subcontractor confirms the payment information reported by the prime, and the status in the payment audit module now changes from pending to confirmed. And that's with just a friendly reminder. So here's a copy of the email that the prime gets should a friendly reminder be sent out. It's just notifying the prime contractor because we want to keep our primes informed about the status of any of their payments or any of the information on the contract that may affect future reporting. And we're going to always in this system keep prime contractors up to date and informed about those occurrences. So in this next slide, this is the process when the subcontractor fails to verify the payment after the system has had 2 failed attempts to obtain that payment verification from the subcontractor. So the pending status in the payment audit module, now the subcontractor has not verified the payment information. So starting with the big gray rectangle box, you see number 3, I'm on number 3 on the slide. On the 11th day, the system generates an email to the prime that includes a link for a full payment verification submission by the 15th of the next reporting period. So if the system is unsuccessful in getting that payment verification from the subcontractor and the system has had 2 failed attempts, then we're going to talk directly to the prime contractor about the situation. In the green diamond, you see under the rectangle box, it asks if the prime responds to the deadline. Then in the orange box under that, it indicates that yes, the prime did respond. They clicked on the link that was provided in the email and sent the verification information in to Diversity. And now we went from, we now have a confirmed payment, as you can see in the gray circle at the end of that process. Here's an example of the email that the prime received. One, we've had 2 failed attempts from the system to obtain a payment verification from a subcontractor. Essentially, we gave them 2 5-day periods, and on the 11th day, this is the email that's generated to the prime contractor. Lastly, and this is a slide I don't want to see any of the primes land on, or for failure to get a payment verified. The status in PAM went from pending to non-compliant, and now let's jump all the way to the left on the slide to the blue box. By this time, all the links that have been sent out via the system have expired, and the prime is unable to submit their next month's involvement report or receive payment on that contract. The prime is now in contact with Diversity. Diversity has reached out. Diversity has also been copied and notified regarding the status of this payment every step of the way. And once the information is submitted and received from the prime contractor, then Diversity can now change the status that's in MDR from non-compliant to compliant. And this is where we don't want to see payment verifications end up. So we'll work with the prime contractor anytime we get that 11th day notice. Typically you'll hear from someone in Diversity regarding the situation to try to get it to where we can get the information by the 15th of the next month. So the prime will be given a grace period for us to make sure that we can get them compliant before there's any interruption in payments or reporting that takes place. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Sheila.
Okay, this slide will cover our implementation plans. The plan is for our new payment audit module to go live January 19th of 2021. Before that time, we will be conducting review of all active contracts. So if there are any missing contact emails for MWBE subs, the primes will be notified so that we can get all of those contacts updated. The PAM webinars will also be posted on our MSD Diversity website. Step-by-step instruction manuals will be sent to all our active primes and all of our subcontractors so that you all can refer back to it if you have any questions, or if there's anything that you want to refer back to on how the process works. These guides will be available to you. All new projects requires completed vendor verification forms for all of the MWBE subcontractors. So all subcontractor information will be verified prior to the reporting of any payments. So that's when you are awarded a new project, the vendor verification form will be required to be completed. And also during uh, the process of you having your project, if you are adding a new subcontractor or replacing a new subcontractor, then these forms will need to be completed with the correct contact email address for the subcontractor.
And that concludes our payment audit workshop training information for our prime contractors. As Sheila stated, we'll be connecting with any of our prime contractors with active contracts that do not have verified subcontractor payment data, and working with you and your subs to make sure that all that data is updated in MSD systems. And we just look forward to automating this process and working with you all to make sure that there's no interruption of any of your reporting requirements on our contracts. And so now I'll turn it back over to Saad, who has been taking questions while we've been speaking.
Yeah, thank you, Shauna. And for your first time, really good. That was great. So we did get 2 questions throughout the presentation. In fact, actually, I think we answered one of them, but I'll get to that. Before I get into the questions, just want to remind everybody, if you do have a question, if you're on a computer, just wiggle your mouse. If you're on a smartphone, tap your screen. You'll see a black bar appear at the bottom of your screen. Click on the Q&A button and you can type in your question there. Alternatively, there is contact information on the screen, as you can see. If you feel more comfortable talking one-on-one, just go ahead and use either that phone number or that email address. So I will get to the questions now. So the first one is by Kim Lewis, and this one was answered. Sheila did answer this one, but it's always good to go over it. Kim asked, is there a way to get a list of any subs that haven't verified their original contact email?
Yes, Kim. We'll be in communication with you, letting you know who all on all of your active contracts who does not have a verified email address. I'll be able to send their list out to you so that we can get all of those subs updated.
Perfect. And one more, this was during the payment verification failure scenarios. Leanna Buckle asked, so going forward, will primes need to send copies of canceled checks?
Copies of canceled checks will only be required in the event that we're doing some type of investigation. Right now in the system, with us automating the process, the copies of the canceled checks that we previously asked for in the manual process is not required. However, if we get to the point of that 11th day and the prime has to verify the payment, that's when we consider that to be an investigation, and the copies of the canceled checks would be required. But as long as we can get a verified payment from the sub within that 11-day period, the copies of the canceled checks won't be required.
All right, perfect. So those are the questions that we received. I'm going to give it a couple more seconds to see if anybody has any others, although I doubt it at this point, but give it a couple more seconds to let anybody submit more questions. And if not, again, the information on the screen is where you can ask specific questions as well. So we'll give it just a couple more seconds.
Well, while we're giving it a couple of more seconds, I just still like to point out that you know, this verifying the email addresses and information for the subcontractors. We will be covering that in the subcontractor training with the subcontractors to let them know the importance of having up-to-date and verified information in order to prevent any hiccups along the way with the prime contractors submitting their payments. And before we actually go live with the module, we're going to make sure that every active contract is in good shape to move forward and that they are able to report on their active projects before we actually roll out the module.
Perfect. Thank you, Shauna. All right, we did get one more in. From Michelle Maldonado, will this hold up receiving our final payment for a project?
This payment audit module does not have anything to do with the final evaluation of the projects. This is during the time that the project is active and the projects are regularly being reported on and the payments for the subcontractors are being reported. Now, if you get to a final evaluation and there's some missing payments or missing information, then that's something that will have to be addressed at that time. But as long as everything is reported into the system on a monthly basis as the project is active, this module should not affect the final evaluation process.
All right, thank you, Shauna. One more in, oh, from Michelle. Thank you, Shauna and Sheila.
Thank
No
you.
problem.
All right, I think that's all the questions that we have. If you had any others, please use the contact information you see on the screen to ask them. Other than that, we thank you for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.